So a lot of Aquinas's ideas about sexual ethics when it comes to premarital sex, extramarital sex, homosexuality, they're based on his beliefs about marriage and marriage as a sacrament. So I'm just going to go over a little bit about that first, and hopefully his ideas about the other concepts should be quite clear and obvious to you because of those. So, firstly, he thinks that by our very nature, human beings kind of pair off. It's just instinctive for us to kind of to get into couples and to pair off. He thinks that that instinct is actually kind of reflective of divine law. Remember the law given to us through revelations in Scripture, so the Bible, etc. And that's certainly true. We find in Genesis, go forth and multiply. This kind of idea that we're supposed to be united with our spouse to become one flesh and then go off and have lots of babies. It's repeated throughout the Bible. So, again, marriage is incredibly important according to Aquinas, and that therefore dictates his ideas about other sexual practices. So, according to the Catholic Church, again, very influenced by Aquinas and his ideas on natural law, marriage is one of the seven sacraments. So, it's kind of like, as a sacrament, it's a way of kind of expressing and connecting to God's love for us as humans. So, the kind of the ceremony of marriage, it's more evidence of kind of us following divine law, of following what the Scripture tells us to do. Okay, so within marriage, what are the benefits of it? Well, it's got lots of other connections to the primary precepts. So, if we are married, and we have lots of people who are married within society, then it's going to help us to maintain order and to maintain structure. We've got kind of clear family units, we've got boundaries, and it's just going to help with that kind of not going out and doing ridiculous things, etc., because we've got kind of people that are accountable to us and that we are accountable to also. So it helps us kind of, as I say, put in order and structure within our lives. It also adds to other primary precepts. Obviously, the idea to procreate is one of the primary precepts, and the idea that we should educate and protect the young. All of those primary precepts can be kind of put in place by the sacrament of marriage. We protect our children as parents, we hopefully educate them and teach them things right from wrong, help them to develop their faith. And so, yeah, we're procreating, we're pretty much doing all of the primary precepts if we're getting married and living in a family unit in that way. So for Aquinas, and for lots of others, there's two kind of functions of marriage. So two roles that it plays, for purposes that it's trying to achieve. The one being generative, so it's literally generating something, you're creating something. So to create new life, to create children, that's the first function of marriage. And the second is unitive, so it's connecting, uniting the two people that are involved in the marriage. So both of those functions, those tell us those purposes of marriage are important. And Aquinas believed you couldn't separate the two. So both of them need to be present within a marriage. There needs to be children and there needs to be a unity between a couple. So for this reason, if you're having sex outside of marriage, then you are being you're going against the teachings of Aquinas's natural law. Hopefully, ultimately, one day you will be married, and so if you've already had sex, you've had premarital sex, then you're kind of you're essentially committing adultery. You're cheating on your future spouse, your future husband or wife, by having sex with someone before you're married. And obviously, if you're having extramarital sex, so you're having an affair, then that is just quite clearly adultery and going against the function, the purpose of marriage to unite people, one of them. You are potentially still going to be generating children, but you're not doing it in a unit. You're not doing it in a way that's kind of connected you with one other person. And so it's only fulfilling one of the functions of marriage if you're going out and having children out of wedlock or in an extramarital affair. So, when you're not married to someone or cheating on your husband or wife, it only fills one of the two functions of marriage. And as I say, premarital sex is cheating on your future husband or wife potentially. These ideas, connecting to the principles of the primary precepts and ideas of natural law might be fairly, unique to Aquinas, but they're not very unique within Christianity. These ideas they fit quite well with, as I say, the teachings go forth and multiply, the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not commit adultery. So this is not really groundbreaking stuff that Aquinas is saying here, that we shouldn't be having sex unless we're in a committed marriage, not just a committed relationship, but a committed marriage, because marriage is a sacrament and it is uniting you with one person. So it's fulfilling that second function of connecting you and uniting you as a couple. And obviously, if we're talking about children, they're only really supposed to be born within marriage, because generating new life is one of the purposes of marriage. So the telos, the function, the purpose of marriage is to generate new life, and so we shouldn't be doing it in any other way. It's a bit like, using a cheese grater to scratch an itch. Yeah, I guess technically it can do that, but it's not really the function or the purpose of a cheese grater, and it's not really what you're meant to do with it, and so you're not really getting the best out of it and fulfilling its telos. When it comes to Aquinas' views on homosexuality, then I can apologise in advance for some pictures here, but we're going back to this idea of telos and purpose again. So, everything, all objects within the universe have a purpose, a telos, something that they are supposed to do. Grater is supposed to grate, cheese or vegetables. It's not supposed to grate your skin, because that's not really just scratching an itch. Yeah, so everything has got a telos and a purpose. So if we're looking at genitalia, we're looking at a penis, we're looking at a vulva, then we can clearly see what the purpose of those two things is. You can clearly see that one is intended to be inserted into the other. Okay, it's not kind of difficult to work out what's happening. Hence, animals are able to do it quite quickly, like without having a big thought or conversation. Humans and animals throughout history have been able to work out how penises and vaginas work. So it's not exactly difficult to comprehend what the purpose of either of them is. But that means if there's any kind of conduct which isn't serving the function rather of reproduction, then it's going against the purpose of these body parts. So Catholics obviously are the ones who've taken these ideas to heart, and so for Catholics there is no masturbation. So even if you're just kind of touching yourself, it's still going against the purpose of these two objects of your genitals. Oral or anal sex again goes against the purpose. You're not procreating. Having affairs, and that's again connected back to these ideas of marriage. So kind of uniting these two people and generating children, that's a kind of a function of marriage, and so having affairs, no for them. Homosexuality, again the same reason as masturbation and oral sex, you're using your genitals for the wrong thing according to its telos and what Aquinas' view is. And then, having children out of wedlock, so before you're married, again, it's going against the purpose, the function of marriage, and not using your genitals for what they're supposed to be intended for, according to Aquinas.